YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage back, and I'm going to do a second part to my kind of beginner's guide to Rome 2 here, and we can just do different pieces of this. So last time we learned how to move your troops around a battlefield, and we learned how to basically issue attack orders and that kind of stuff. So this time I want to talk about the different special abilities and formations that your units might have. So let's take a look at these. I think I can use the Romans to demonstrate this again. They're not the best for it, but it'll work. Just get some different units here that might have some different abilities. And there we go. And we got our little Parthian army over there again because it's not really going to be important. So let's start the battle, and I just want to talk about a few things, whether or not it's worthwhile. And I can't cover everything here. At least I'll try to cover as much as I can. But let's talk about some of these different abilities that your units have. So down here on this bar, when you select certain units, they may have abilities, and the abilities come to the right of your faction button here. So let's say, for instance, these gladiator here, they have this killing spree ability. And if you want to know what the ability is, if you turned on those help tooltips like I showed you in the last battle, you can mouse over the killing spree, and it'll tell you that it helps. When something's in green, it's telling you it's increasing that or making it better, and when something's in red, it means that you're going to suffer a penalty there. So it's saying it's going to give your gladiators increased weapon damage for an extended period, but it's also going to give you extra fatigue. So you can use these anytime you want. You can just click it, and now it's activated, and you can actually see over here on this screen, it increased their weapon damage here. And anytime that you've got an ability active that's helping your men, you'll see this little green thing here, and it'll have an icon, so it'll show you what ability is active. And you can also see what's active on your enemy's troops. And just here too, this little eyeball thing above your troops means your men are hidden. And you can also see that same eyeball down here on the unit cards. So yeah, that kind of just hopefully help you get an idea of how to visualize things from up above. Now the gladiators don't have anything else to look at. Let's take a look at these legionary cohorts. They have a few different things here. This button here is called formation attack. It means that your unit's going to try and maintain its formation when assaulting enemy units. That is pretty handy if you're using these guys as mainline infantry and you want them to hold their formation and hold the enemy off longer and fight as a cohesive unit. That's when formation attack is handy. If you're going to be using units to flank or move around the flank of an enemy or to do rear charges, you're not going to want it in formation attack. When it's yellow around it, it's on. When you turn it off, it's off. So now if I attack with these guys, they're not going to try and maintain a cohesive formation, they'll just attack. If I do attack in formation attack, they kind of stay with the front line and men stay behind kind of in reserve lines. This button right here is loose spacing. Romans have this as an ability. Not many units have this. It basically lessens their damage from missiles because they spread out more, so it's less likely for the missiles to handle them. It is going to hurt you from a standpoint that your men, and this is kind of getting into a future discussion, but if you use loose spacing, your men will not be braced, and bracing helps prevent your men from being destroyed on a charge. So loose spacing would mainly be good just to avoid missile fire. This is a fire at will button, and certain infantry units have the fire at will button. And that means that they have javelins that they can use before they enter combat, and if this button is turned on, it means that any unit that strays into their range, they're just going to hurl their javelins at them. Or if you give a charge order and they have javelins left, they'll hurl their javelins before they charge. There is a reload time. They don't fire them super rapidly, and there's a certain range associated with it. You can't actually see that range here, but with Roman units, I think it's about a 40 range. Anyway, there's other unit abilities too, like this Testudo, and again, just mouse over something and it'll tell you what it's good for. So it says protection against missiles, limited speed, so you guys get into this narrow column formation and it does help protect them from missiles, but it's obviously going to be very bad for them if they get into a melee fight. So does this formation work? Yes, it does help protect your guys from missiles. It just makes you extremely immobile. So there's some of these formations though that are not particularly useful, and I'm going to walk through a couple of those now. So a lot of folks like to, when I play new players, it seems like they're almost always running their cavalry in these wedge or diamond formations. And don't get me wrong, they look cool. The formations look neat. You can hit it, your guys go into this diamond formation. It even says that it helps you out here. So if you look, it says charge bonus and melee attack. Great, I get a boost to charge bonus and melee attack. That's super helpful. You also get a debuff to melee defense and acceleration. And, well, acceleration, why does that matter, Heir? Well, it means your guys aren't going to get up to full speed as quickly, and a cavalry unit does the most damage on a charge when it's at full speed. So if the acceleration has been diminished, it means that it's going to take this unit a lot longer to get up to full speed, and they're going to be slower when they make turns and all kinds of other stuff because they're trying to be cohesive in their formation. And you do get that increased charge, but sometimes just the shape of the formation can not be very good for your charge. So honestly, I don't recommend using this unless you want your unit to... I mean, it can be okay to use it. I just don't recommend it. I think it's better to just have your men out of formation, leave them about 3 or 4 ranks deep in the cavalry, and that'll maximize their charge for the most part. So maybe that's a good example there. So I don't recommend flying wedge and diamond formation to new players. It's not going to do you any special good. Don't use it. It doesn't really make any sense, especially when charging infantry. Don't use it. I have seen it be helpful to help your cavalry last a little longer sometimes in a fight with other cav, but I do not recommend it versus infantry. It seems to kind of impede your charge, and I wouldn't use it. Yeah, they also have a mount button, so you can dismount any cavalry unit. So if you hit that, you can see that your guys here jump down off their horses, and they can now fight on foot. You'll notice that they lose charge bonus, though, when they get off the horses, because the speed of the horses, I think, obviously is trying to be representative there when they get off. So now these guys fight on foot. So yeah, you can hit the mount button and they'll get back on. If you dismount near enemy units, be careful. If stray arrows or stray troops touch your horses will run off, and then your cavalry unit will be forced to stay on foot through the remainder of the battle. Yeah, you can mount and dismount your cavalry units. So hopefully that makes sense. It just kind of gives you some of this. Now there's a lot more unit abilities in Rome 2, so let's go cover some of those, and I'm going to tell you whether or not they're worth it, when you should use them, and all that kind of stuff. So let's go back out here. Every faction, as far as unit abilities go, let's talk about this first. Every faction has to have a general, and each faction has access to certain general abilities. Certain ones have unique, kind of like Rome does here. Every faction has strategist, warrior, and commander. Strategist is useful if you're going to bring a very powerful unit, like a royal cataphract or an oathsworn, and they have unit abilities that make them stronger, but also make them tired. If that's the case, the strategist general can be a good choice. You can use those unit abilities that make your men tired, and then as the strategist general you have access to what's called second wind and battle rhythm. Second wind will make your men automatically not be tired again. It's kind of magical, but that's the way it works. Battle rhythm gives your men extra attack. So this one can be useful whenever you have a power unit on the field and you want to maximize its utility. Warrior General is going to be useful in certain situations. They have 2 abilities that come with it. It's called Warcry and Intimidate. Warcry debuffs the morale of whatever unit you use the Warcry on, and never use Warcry on a unit unless that unit is already in a red morale, and I need to show you on the unit flags where that's at, and I'll do that. But if you look above a unit flag, the morale of that unit can be seen. It'll either be green, orange, yellow, orange, or red. Never use Warcry on a unit unless it's red, and if you do it when a unit is on the red morale or when their flag is flashing like they're wavering, it's almost certain to cause them to rout, and essentially it's a way for you to make sure that a unit gets off the battlefield very quickly. A good time to use Warcry would be, say for instance, when you have cavalry coming in on a rear charge. It's already going to give a morale penalty to enemy units, and or when you shoot flaming arrows or something like that, and then you combine it with Warcry, it can be pretty dangerous. Now, Intimidate takes away the ability for whichever unit you use it on to use its special abilities. Intimidate can be very useful against certain army types. So say for instance you have the special Roman general that has special abilities and the enemy player brings Intimidate and they hit you with it. It means that you can't use those abilities until the Intimidate time period runs out, and it could basically be a critical juncture in the battle and you could lose. So Intimidate basically allows you to either keep an enemy general or an enemy unit from using their special abilities for a period of time, and strategically used it can be very helpful. The Commander General is best used whenever you have a low morale army, and Rome is not a good example of that. You pretty much will never need the Commander General with Rome, but maybe let's go take a look at another faction. So let's say for instance like, Tillus, probably a decent example. There's certain infantry that don't have particularly good morale, like these Gallo-Thracians only have 50, only 45 you see on these cheaper units. So let's say that you had an army composed mostly of these cheaper units, and not necessarily these better units like the Tribal Warriors or the Oathsworn. You may want to consider bringing a Commander General because he has 2 abilities. One is Rally, and the other's Raised Banner. Now, Rally increases the morale of everybody within the circle of influence for a short period of time, and Raised Banner increases their melee defense, and I want to say it also increases their morale, so I could be wrong. I'll have to look at it when we get in there. But anyway, it's useful for basically buffing up armies that may have fairly low morale. So, and low morale for mainline melee infantry is 45. 50 is not real good. 55 and up is better. And that's just going to be something that you can keep in mind there. So that's when it could be a good time to use the Commander General. There are factions that have their own special abilities that came in the Caesar and Gaul expansion. So if you own Caesar and Gaul, you'll have special abilities with Rome, which is Caesar, and it's Loyalty of the 10th, which basically makes your the men in that circle, and I want to say it's only up to so many units, unbreakable, which means that their morale will not falter no matter what until the time runs out, or until they die to the last man. And then Presence helps your men's special abilities recharge faster, but there's not many Roman units with special abilities, so I don't find that one to be very useful. Loyalty of the 10th, though, can be quite useful. The Arverni have a special general as well. It's called Vercingetorix. Vercingetorix has Unity of the Tribes and Relentless. Unity of the Tribes raise your morale, and Relentless increases your attack for a short period of time, so a very useful ability for the Arverni. The Boii do not have anything special. I picked the wrong faction anyway. It's the Nervii. They have this one here, Bodugnatus or however you say it. He's got a couple here. One's Force Concentration and the other one's Fighting Spirit. I know one of them makes you unbreakable, and I can't remember exactly what the other one does. But I mean, whenever you're bringing in these factions that have these special generals, typically it's a good idea to use those. The Suebi have it as well. Theirs is a very interesting one called Ariovistus, and he has Pride and Fast Charge. Pride increases your armor piercing damage pretty big, and then Fast Charge gives your men like a 3-phase thing. In the first phase, it makes them really fast. In the second phase, it gives them a ridiculous charge buff. And then the third phase, I can't remember exactly what it is. It may be your men getting tired quicker. I can't remember, but it comes in phase. Or no, maybe it's just 2 phases. Yeah, it could be just 2 phases. Anyway, I think that's all the special abilities. I don't think anybody else has special abilities. I know the Iceni don't. Who else would have come in that? Boii don't. Nervii we already looked at. Suebi we looked at. Arverni we looked at. So yeah, that should be all the people with special abilities. So yeah, that's the general abilities and kind of how they work and when you should use them. I know this has kind of been just kind of a mishmash of things here, but I mostly just want to talk about special abilities. Let's look at other units that have special abilities. There's certain ones that I want you to be able to see. Let's go to Parthia. So certain cataphract units have what's called Trample, which is this special ability here. And Trample gives your men an extremely strong charge bonus for a short period of time, but it's going to make them extremely exhausted. So Trample should only be used whenever you need a clutch charge, like maybe you're charging into a key unit of the enemy, maybe in the later game when your men are already tired anyway, and then you can use Trample to increase their bonus. If you combine a unit like these cataphracts that have Trample with like a Strategist General where you can use the second wind to get the energy back, again, that's a good combination. So that's where you'd want to use something like Trample. Other units have special abilities. Let's take a look at the Arverni. Like these Oathsworn here have the Headhunt ability. This one is very potentially useful. It gives you higher melee attack and unbreakable morale for a short period of time at the cost of melee defense. This can be very key in trying to break enemy units faster at a key point. And the best time to use Headhunt is whenever, again, you need a key breakthrough. And again, if you want to support your men, if you bring a Strategist General and you were to use that second win with the Headhunt, then your men are not going to be exhausted when they're finished. A very potentially useful situation. So yeah, that's another one. Headhunt's big. Let's take a look at the Suebi here. So another ability that some units have, and it's very few, but some have the Frenzy here. Frenzy gives you a massive charge damage boost and weapon damage boost. It's very handy on the charge, but it does make your men get tired. If you are not able to get a good charge when you use Frenzy, you've wasted it, so you'd want to use it right before a charge and let your men get a very nice charge bonus. So that's how Frenzy can be used, and it's on several units in the game. Let's go back to the Arverni here. You'll notice that a lot of units have this Shield Wall ability. Shield Wall increases your armor strength, bracing, melee defense, and shield strength. It can be useful for a number of things. If you're about to get charged by heavy cavalry and you have time to get your men in Shield Wall, it will definitely give them bracing. And I'll talk a little more about game mechanics in another video, but bracing basically means your men can hold up to a charge better. So it's good at holding off against charges. The armor increase is going to help you against missiles. And the melee defense means that your men are going to block enemy attack chances when they're in combat better. And then shield strength, again, gives them the ability to hopefully block more missiles and melee attacks. So it's a very useful ability. When should you use it? When should you not use it? Well, right now it's a little bit weird in the way that it works. Typically in real life you'd think that, hey, my men have to be into a wall before combat or else it won't be any good. In this game you can actually enter wall after combat, and that's actually typically the best time to do it. You'd want to charge your unit into combat and then push that button because you get the bonuses. You pretty much would almost always want to be using shield wall with the units that have it, just because it's pretty exploitable right now and it's pretty much the way to go. Again, click it after you've entered combat, and you may want to go ahead and click one more attack order after you've used it in combat to make sure you guys don't kind of do some glitchy, weird stuff. So yeah, that's shield wall. Certain missile units have special abilities as too, so you got like quick reload. Helps your men shoot faster for a short period of time, but it makes them tired. They have special ammunition types like flaming shot. So flaming shot is good for lowering the morale of enemy units. Some people like to use it to try and make elephants run amok, but it's not necessary. You can just fire regular arrows at elephants. So flaming shot is actually used to help break enemy morale. So if you're fighting and you see the enemy morale starting to waver, a quick flaming shot into some of their men who are about to waver can actually finish them off. So yeah, that's just something to be aware of. Certain archer units also have, and let's go in here, I know Chimeria probably has it. Certain archer units have, well, they don't have it actually. Let's go to Cretan archers, they should have it. So here they are. They have whistling shot. Whistling shot lowers the melee attack and the shots per minute of enemy units that get hit by it. But it also decreases the damage that your missiles are going to do. I don't know a whole lot of particularly good uses for this. It doesn't last for a huge long time, so I would be careful of whistling shot. If there is an enemy unit that you really need to debuff their attack, you might be able to shoot them with some whistling shot, but if it goes over the top of your own men, it's going to affect them as well, so just be aware of that. Let's take a look at the Steppe Factions real quick, at least one of them. Just trying to go through as many of these as I can. I may not be able to cover everything, but hopefully I can give you a good overview. So horse archers have this Cantabrian circle. It's going to make your men a little harder to hit, and that is true. And it improves their reload time, and it kind of basically makes them put down a constant rate of fire. But you got to be careful because they're kind of immobile when they go into it, and they will actually sometimes fire while they're still out of range too, so you have to make sure your men are in range. It's not typically a good idea to leave a horse archer unit within range of a foot skirmisher, but if you're just looking to put a constant steady stream of fire down on the enemies, Cantabrian Circle can be kind of helpful. I don't see it being particularly helpful a whole lot though, so just beware of it. That's another one I'm trying to think. So certain units like Hoplites have this Hoplite Wall. It's very similar to Shield Wall, and the same way that I recommended to you to use Shield Wall is the same way I would recommend for you to use Hoplite Wall. Hoplites, though, are also a formation attack unit. If you take them out of formation attack and go into Hoplite Wall, it's actually more effective than being in formation attack and using Hoplite Wall if you're looking for them to get more kills. If you're looking for them to just stay there longer, you would leave them in formation attack. Pike units have the pike formation. I would actually recommend probably having the pike phalanx on before entering combat, though you can use it afterwards, but your pikes are going to get wrecked up pretty bad if you try that. Pike phalanx, of course, means that your men have their pikes down and they march forward. Pike phalanx is basically impenetrable from the front, though your pike units are going to be extremely vulnerable to missiles. And again, let's just think if there's any other special abilities that are worth noting here. Yes, there are actually. Square formation. Let's look at that one real quick. So some units have this square formation. So square formation is going to basically kind of be like a Hoplite Wall or Shield Wall, except it's a square. The one key thing to know here is turn off fire at will if the unit has fire at will before you go into the square, or else the square won't be worthwhile. You need to turn off the fire at will. Now if you put a unit in the square and leave fire at will on, they can fire in 360 degrees. They're javelins, so that can be helpful. But again, just be aware that if they get charged, they don't get that bracing bonus whenever fire at will is on, and that's bad if you're getting charged. So something square can be useful when you want to hold an enemy longer, or if there's multiple cavalry units around and you want to protect them from getting charged from a couple of different sides, the square formation can be handy. Don't think there's a whole lot else. Oh, there's one other one I'll cover real quick. So elephants have the stampede ability here, which increases their charge bonus, but it also makes them tired, so be careful when you use it. Using it at the right moment can make them pretty deadly. I think that's pretty much it for all the unit abilities for the most part. Hopefully this episode gave you a little bit of an idea about kind of when to use certain things. So let me just give you a few quick tips, reminders. Do not use diamond formation with cavalry. Don't use flying wedge formation with cavalry, at least not in online battles. If you want to use it in campaign just for the heck of it, fine. It's not very useful. When charging infantry, I don't find those formations to be very useful. Sometimes it can be useful against cavalry, but I again, don't recommend it under pretty much any circumstance. They're not very useful at the moment. The wedge formation with Swaby infantry, also not very useful at the moment. Trying to think if there's any others. And there is one other unit ability that I didn't show, but it's not a huge deal here. Let's go with Rome, and there could be others too. Use the whip. It increases your guys' melee attack and makes them fresh for a short period of time, but then afterwards they get really tired. So again, when you use it is going to be key. You'd want to use it if you're trying to break an enemy unit at a key moment, because your men are going to be very tired afterwards. And we'll talk about some game mechanics on the next video. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. HeirofCarthage, signing out for now.